Right. Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 14th, 6:30 in the evening. This is a Sustainability Committee meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We definitely have a quorum here. Even more of a quorum now, Shelby arriving. Sorry. And I've been asked to move citizen comments to the end, so we'll postpone that until after we get done. First agenda item is consider approving minutes for the January 10th, 2024 meeting. Take appropriate action. There was an attachment with that. Are there any updates or comments about the minutes from last month?
I'll make a motion to do the minute.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, we need a second.
What?
We need a second on
Oh,
that.
we need a second.
I'll second.
All right, Price is second. That motion.
Minutes.
All right, we vote on it by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Is unanimously approved. Thank you, everybody. Our second agenda items, receive a staff update on sustainability initiatives. Alex.
All right, so I mentioned it earlier, but for those that weren't here yet, Robert, who is normally here with me, he has been promoted to the Parks and Rec Director. So he'll probably no longer be attending these meetings since he's got quite a few under his purview and quite a bit of work that's on his plate as he's starting his new role. So good move for him. So we're excited that he's gonna be leading that. And it's always nice when you have someone that kind of worked with you in sustainability now in another department. So hopefully that will lead to some more collaboration with our Parks and Rec. The SECO grant for the LED lighting retrofit at the rec center for the outdoor lighting. That was recommended by the committee for council to accept that at their meeting on January 23rd, which they did. So now we have signed that, submitted it to the state. We're waiting to get that contract executed so we can start spending money and getting those lights purchased and installed. And then once we get them installed, we'll submit for that rebate. And so that will cover 80% of the cost. And the number on that was 27,000 roughly. So it'll be a $5,000 contribution from the city, $5,700 from the city, and then the rest is reimbursed from the state. So that'll be some energy efficient lighting going out in the parking lot there. The active transportation plan will be presenting an update to council on the 20th during the study session. So we'll provide some of the information that we're seeking and kind of the plan for public input. Right now, our plan is to have a public input meeting on March 7th. That might get pushed back just a little bit so we have more time to promote it. They wanted us to provide an update to council first. So that will likely take place at the rec center. And so we'll have a public input meeting that'll be led by the consultants working on that project. They'll have different boards there that kind of show, for bike lanes, what the different strategies are, versus striping versus a protected bike lane. Try to get the idea where people's priorities are for transportation on locations, bike lanes, what type of facility they feel comfortable with, what they feel safe on. So we'll be getting all of that public input. We'll combine that with all the public input received from when they did the comprehensive plan. There was a big mobility section with that. So combine all that and that will be our active transportation plan. And that's kind of the next 5 years or so of trails, sidewalks, bike infrastructure, kind of any way you can move around the city without a vehicle. The tree, go ahead.
So the announcement that we're one of the top 10 most bikeable
Yes.
cities, is that going to be more supported by more?
I mean, I think so. I think that shows that we've kind of already put in some of these trails and these facilities. So hopefully we will build off that. And
Okay,
I don't know, I'm not familiar with how they rank those different
Sure.
ones, but it's always good to be on one of the good lists. So that this plan will help work towards those facilities and that infrastructure.
Nice.
The tree giveaway contract, we have completed that. We'll be continuing to work with Texas Trees Foundation. They're the nonprofit that's in Dallas. They've been our partner on the last two. And so we have a new contract that represents kind of some of the increases in price, not significantly, which is good. But so we'll be working with them moving forward. I think we've got, I don't remember how long that contract lasts. It's at least 3 years. So that'll be good. They're a good partner. The trees that we get are always in really good condition. We always get good feedback on that one.
So is the number of trees we get based on the price, or do we just say, like, we want 200 trees and then adjust?
We've just been doing 200 trees,
Okay.
the flat number, so. We went with the public works staff on to University of Texas at Arlington's campus and met with a professor there, or a civil engineering professor. They have 2 parking lots there where they have taken plastic and incorporated recycled plastic into the asphalt. So that was a really kind of interesting project to see. There's other examples kind of throughout the country and internationally where they're using these on roadways. So instead of having the bitumen or the oil that's within asphalt, you replace a good portion of that with recycled plastic. And it's really been in the field studies that they've done, holding up to stress better than traditional. So there's some good photos that we took there in the parking lot. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of explore that as an option for future projects. So being able to incorporate a recycled material into a kind of a capital project.
Any indication where they're doing any kind of monitoring on microplastic leaching?
So they are doing that because one of the areas is somewhat near, like the runoff is kind of near, just like a small creek or a drainage ditch. So they haven't had any increases in microplastics. You can't really tell on the structure because it's all melted in. So it's probably really similar to like the oil residue that they, heat in with the asphalt, and then it dries and hardens. So they have done that. That was one of the questions that we had. Different questions about skid and durability and, how it works with as our soils shift.
Ice.
So that was a fun kind of get out of the office trip, and it's really interesting to see kind of a practical application that's getting, cars driving over at a slower speed, and you can see pretty visibly, okay, this spot it's pretty smooth and it's been here for 9 months, and this other one, the crack runs right into it and stops. So hopefully that's something we can explore in the city.
I can imagine with that.
Plastics, or is it a certain grade?
They have different types because they have different projects internationally where certain plastics are found and other ones aren't. So we went into their laboratory too. They've done some pretty rigorous testing on different types of plastics, everything from like plastic film, like a grocery bag versus milk carton type
Mhm.
plastic. So
Interesting.
they've got kind of a lot of different ones. They have a actual roadway in Bangladesh that the college has done out there, and they've had 6 months of data on that. I think that one was with plastic film, and it's holding up pretty well.
So expansion contraction with heat and cold,
Mhm.
it's the plastic that's doing it instead of just asphalt just going cracking in half. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice.
So that was a cool one, and I think that's an opportunity now that we're within Public Works that we can kind of explore some of these projects. Water rebates, we processed our 80th toilet rebate last week, so we're up to 80 there. Save the date, April 6th, so it's just Saturday, and that's the board and commissions banquet. I believe you all received the invitation, but if not, I can resend it to you.
That's April 6th, so make sure it's on your calendar.
Where is it gonna be?
Six or six?
That was the physical mix, is that?
Yeah, it was, the city secretary's office mailed it to whatever address they had on.
I got a save the date on it, but not a,
I gotta see.
Save the date. Maybe the save the dates have gone out, but the invitations have not.
You think it's gone to campus? Did you get yours from campus?
No, but I gotta save the date. I didn't get an
Well,
actual
We
invitation.
gotta show it.
Did you get to save the date at your home or at
At
campus?
home.
And where is it gonna be?
It's the new structure of the historical park.
Oh, that's right.
I forget the name of it.
1814 or 1842. There you go.
All right, and our next committee meeting is March 13th. So I got,
All right, thank you.
March 13.
yes, second Wednesday.
Next agenda item is receive an annual update on the implementation of the sustainability plan, and Alex, turn it back over to you.
Yeah, apologies, y'all. I'll be talking a lot during this meeting.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Can I see your agenda? Can I see your agenda real quick?
You should want to choose this. Maybe not. You have the ICP for this? I think
I will
so.
have to get an answer for you on that.
And do we get a +1 or is it just us?
I don't know that.
Before, I think it's been a
Let me-
plus
let me
one, but
Follow up on that. Yeah, last time they had +1.
Yeah. this is at the new place. And I have a plus one that wants to check out the new menu.
Right.
I haven't gotten to save the date yet.
We already got a babysitter.
Whoa,
Nice.
babysitter.
In advance.
I have plus one.
All right, so 2 years ago, on the first, so February 1st, 2022, council adopted the sustainability plan. That was a lot of work that y'all put in, this committee worked on to put input in there. So we've kind of just done an annual update every February. So I'm just going to kind of go through that. Joseph, I used your last council presentation as a
Okay.
template, so it might look a little familiar to you. I changed just enough to avoid a lawsuit. Copyright.
I'll give you all the credit.
So just kind of a general overview. We have had continued progress in all the focus areas. We've implemented a mixture of policies and programs and capital improvements as we've been working on that. So that's kind of spread throughout the city. And then we're really trying to work to build Farmers Branch's reputation as a sustainability leader. So this was a slide I just took directly from Joseph's presentation to council, has our focus areas of the sustainability plan and some questions that, we would think about, or the committee has kind of thought about, how can we, help residents save water and upgrade their homes and reduce their utility bill? That's the thing that we made. For reducing building energy usage and providing shade, that's our tree giveaway. So these are kind of the questions that we thought about, and we provided a solution for it through a program or through a initiative. So this presentation is more visual. I have the spreadsheet that I'll pull up after that kind of goes through all of our actions individually. But just kind of since we've been going along, we have these different goals within each focus area, and we just kind of cycle through. I think a lot of you are pretty familiar with the things that we're working on.
Alex, we've lost Lauren. Can she see all this?
Lauren, can you see all this? I kind of minimized you so it wasn't in the presentation.
I'm here. I'm just going off screen while I blow my nose. So y'all don't have to deal with that.
Thank you. So working on reducing vehicle emissions, reducing single occupancy vehicle trips through transportation, public transportation options. Our tree giveaway there, Val and Shelby, looking into our greenhouse gas emissions, how we can reduce those, where those are coming from, and then reducing waste. So we'll talk about our composting survey lately, and we've made some improvements on in our city facilities, trying to get away from single-use plastic, paper towels, providing another option so people don't have to use those if they don't want to. So those are kind of things that we're looking at on waste reduction, access to recycling. Here's actually the picture from the plastic streets, so you can kind of see how smooth that is behind the professor there. And so next steps for us, trying to figure out how we can incorporate sustainability into more aspects of the city government. So working with these other departments on facility upgrades with our grants, or with our fleet, looking at which vehicles would be good candidates for electrification that we can utilize our chargers on. Grants are a big one for us, trying to figure out how we can get those. And one of the things too, the more that we have in place, so having a sustainability plan in place, for example, helps us score a lot better on grants. So it makes us more competitive. So it's one of those things, the more that you do it, the more competitive you are in the process. And especially on the transportation side, us having certain policies in place, like the sustainability plan, like having a clean fleet policy, that actually allows us to get those transportation development credits, which are big. That works as our match on grants. So I think we got $750,000 worth of those credits this last go round. So that was a really big one. And then as we've been doing all these things, hopefully we can start getting some certifications and some designations that recognize the work too.
Where's
So-
Bird City? I'm not familiar with that.
Bird City is a one through Texas Parks and Wildlife that we've looked at. So that part of the thing with the Lights Out, that initiative that we've done in the past, that scores towards that. It's just trying to make sure that we have these kind of programs and policies in place that help wildlife, specifically birds, and in this situation, So especially with the nature preserve, that gets a lot of things. So that's one of the things Parks has kind of looked at that we would probably support from sustainability. And so with that, I'll pull up the spreadsheet in case anyone wants to look through that. It's going to be a little bit harder to see. That's why I kind of did the visual one first. So for the most part, all the actions that are identified in the sustainability plan, we've made some sort of progress on. You know, some of these policies were kind of already in place. Some of them were brand new. Some of them we've received grants for. So I'll just kind of let everyone take a few seconds to read through, and I'll go through all the goals. And if you have any questions on them, just let
Can
me
you
know.
enlarge that anymore?
You get too much larger. And this is in your agenda packet too. So if there's anything when after the meeting that you go through and you have any questions, you can always send me an email. Give me a call.
Yeah, I have a comment. My aunt works at the Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio, and she was telling me about a program that they did where individuals, like homeowners, I think, could buy solar panels that they were then put on either parking garages or parking lots. And that would help to offset the cost of, you know, natural gas or, you know, other forms of energy.
Mhm.
And like, it doesn't have to be on your own property, it was on other property, so, you know, the parking garage somewhere nearby that has a roof system that it wasn't utilized, they put solar panels on top of that. And she actually gets a credit on her utility bill because of it.
I'll look into that.
Actually, don't the owners of the fucking garage?
Yes, yeah, it was this, I don't know if it was through her company and like, you know, the university, or there was something that was offered by San Antonio. I sent her a text message to ask her about it, because I thought it was a really interesting program. And with what Farnham Branch did with the solar field over the,
Solar power.
yeah. I thought that would be something cool, they go to,
Let us know, you get your text and let us know.
absolutely.
The commercial pool roof
Yes.
says it's included in building code. Is there any incentivizing? for
We
that?
don't have anything incentivized right now. Sorry, which one's?
One next page.
So yeah, the commercial pool roof is included within our current building codes. We don't have any incentives on that. Typically for cities, it's when they own the utilities. When you're an electric co-op or electric utility, that you can use some of that funding. You're actually required to by the state to put money into energy conservation programs. So we would kind of be going through Encore on that. They don't have a program for that at this time.
Does the city have lead certification incentives?
We do not.
Do we have a green roof ordinance? I know that part of the landscaping was that they could use the commercial properties could use part of the roof as to meet the requirement, the minimum requirement.
Oh, within the landscape ordinance?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
something that they can use it, but there's not, I don't think there was any like language around allowing otherwise. I mean, I'm assuming it would be, but
Yeah, those are
that may
things that
be a
we can, I mean,
question I bring up when I'm at that meeting.
yeah, I mean, those all kind of fall within some of these focus areas. So those are things that we can look at too as a committee.
Very comprehensive. Thank you, Alex, for doing that.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
So solid waste or zero waste is the one that we've got some more work to do on. Kind of started some of that with the compost survey and some other items, but that'll be probably the next big one that we look at, the one we have probably made the least progress on.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yes.
You know, there was some discussion about offering a smaller size residential trash bin in the future, and Was that ever implemented?
I do not know.
Because I found myself like filling up one of those size trash bags every 2 weeks at most. And that's pushing it. So those big blue ones are
It's too big for me. I just put my bag out first thing in the morning,
same.
cause there's that, I had one of the big ones. And it was more of a pain for the guys to get it out of that than it was just to set it out. I just put it inside my garage. When I open the garage door, I bring it out in the morning, so it doesn't get torn apart.
Mhm.
But yeah, we only make like
Big one.
2 bag, kitchen sized bags a week, so I just transferred it over to a friend who has a bigger family.
Now, they do have a smaller size for recycle, you know that?
Yes, I did know about the one for recycling.
Yeah, if they had a comparable one for the garbage, that'd be good.
Yeah, especially since the incentive is to reduce the amount of waste by implementing more use, more recycling and compost. and so forth.
Agreed. Yeah.
Alex, can you follow up with that and just? make
Yes,
that
I've made
discussion?
note to follow up on that.
Hey, Alex, with the thing with the Bird City, do we have bat boxes in town?
I think we actually have a couple behind City Hall.
Yeah, there's some in the creek.
Yeah, there's some in Rawhide. Yeah, some.
Okay.
I think the ones behind the city hall disappeared. I haven't been able to find them this year.
I think I saw one the other day.
Yeah, I don't know if they're currently.
We need more bats.
Yeah.
We need more bats and less spraying. That's,
Well, out in the new nature preserve, since it's closer to the water and
yeah, it's got to be
the
close to the water.
overpass, I would think George Bush overpass would be a perfect spot for bats.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So, I just don't know how you put a vacancy sign out for bats to find it.
They'll figure it out.
That's the thing online, you know.
They got their own realtors.
Yeah.
Alex, can you, would you have an update on the smart meters?
Yes, so when they first approved the accelerated rollout of the meters, we were at about 2/3 coverage for residential. We're up to 89% now. And once those are completely rolled out, is when they can do the software update. And that would give residents the access to see their water usage. So that would be kind of a good tool for leak detection if you're on vacation and you know that your sprinkler's off and everything's off and you're seeing that your bill, you had usage on those days, you've got a leak somewhere. So that's one of the big pushes. And yeah, well, that was one of the main reasons we included that sustainability plan. So they are moving forward actually pretty fast with that.
When do they hope they have 100% of the thing?
I don't have a date on that one. I just know that we were at 2/3 and we're at 89% over the last 2 years. So I would think within maybe a year, everything would be installed. And then I'm not sure how long the software, kind of the update and the platform takes to go
Give
live.
us an update on timetable, that'd be great.
Perfect.
You're replacing the meters like that's in your front yard, the only one.
Yes, the water meters, yeah.
Did the city council ever approve the irrigation audit?
That's what we're gonna discuss in the next agenda item.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
Thank you, Al, that is our next item. We worked that out between us. Next agenda item is discuss the irrigation checkup program, and we have an attachment for that.
Thank you.
All right, zoom in on that as well. So the irrigation checkup program, this is a draft of what I pulled up here. It was approved by council, the funding was, so we have 10,000 within this to do this pilot program. We currently have the rebates at $50 as the rebate, which would allow for technically 200 of these checkups per year. So very similar format to our toilet rebate. We would have a paper application available. We'll translate it into Spanish as well. And then we would have the ability to apply for that online. We have a fillable form online. So trying to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to apply. Promotion, kind of very similar to how we do the toilet rebates, to let people know that this is a new program that we're piloting. Basically the same kind of eligibility requirements, this, and then, yeah, this is all kind of just the general program information, which is very similar to to the toilet. So
This
just,
gets promoted very well, and we happen to have more than 200 people apply. Is it still a first come, first serve?
yes, so the applications will be basically processed in the order they're received. So we would notify people if, let's say, we hit that 200 and let's say we still have 3 or 4 months left in the fiscal year, we'd let them know that the program is kind of has exhausted its funding for this year. If that funding is renewed the next year, we'll open it back up.
Will they have to reapply or will they get the first come, first serve?
That's something that we'll have to work out. So we'll need to have kind of a contingency for that, whether we'll backlog the applications or if it'll be first come, first serve.
And for them to submit an application, must they first have an irrigation checkup done?
That's correct. So that's what they would have, and that's in this form, and this was also included in the packet. They have to have a licensed irrigator come out and run an inspection on their unit. So they would basically fill out their general information here. Name of the irrigator, the company, the TCEQ license number, so that's how we would confirm that they are a licensed irrigator, and the attachments, so they'd have to include the form that's listed on here and provide some sort of receipt or invoice. So we would confirm that they've met all of that, all the requirements, and then at that point, the rebate would be approved and applied as a credit to the water bill.
So question is, the effectiveness of this checkup,
Yes.
how would we document that?
So what we would look at here, so this is the form, the portion that would be completed by the licensed irrigator. So a lot of the other cities, I guess first off, I'll say with that, I think we've talked about before, a lot of other cities have similar programs. So we had City of Dallas here talking about theirs. They have irrigators on staff. Same with the City of Frisco. A lot of these cities within Tarrant Regional Water District are through the water district, and they contract with an individual. They have basically did a bid process. So there's one company that does all of this. What we have proposed here based on discussions, and this is something that we are going to pilot, is allowing the resident to use whichever irrigator that they prefer, as long as they are a licensed irrigator. And the reasoning behind that is for these other programs that we've seen with the other cities, if it's a city staff member coming there, they can do a reprogram of your controller, but they can't touch your system. There's kind of a liability thing. If they were to adjust a sprinkler head and it breaks, there's a liability thing with that. Same with the ones where they contract with one specific company. Although when I've talked to members of other cities that use that one, they will write up a report for the homeowner and say, hey, you need to, they can adjust the controller, but they won't do any of the repairs there. The homeowners tend to ask, well, can you fix that? And they're like, well, you actually have to call me 24 hours later. So they'll most of the time end up using that company that did the audit. But then it's 2 trips. That's 2 times you have to kind of adjust your work schedule. So one of the things that we're going to try with this in the pilot form, we can always adjust it if it's becomes too much of an issue, is allowing the resident to choose their irrigation company of choice. And then as they do the audit, it's not required to make any repairs in order to receive the rebate. It's just doing the audit. But if there are repairs to be made, they can be made right there at the discretion of the homeowner and the company. So we wouldn't be promoting any of the work. You can get the rebate just by having someone come out, write the report for you, and change it yourself. But that's the reasoning behind that, trying to make it easier for the resident.
The downside of that is that if that's what everyone did, we have made no changes in our water conservation. All that people have done is, oh yeah, you need such and such. When I get the money, I'll do it.
Well, and hopefully the part of it is that with just the reprogramming of the controller, some people are watering maybe 3 days and they really only need to do 2. But that's one of the things we can evaluate. When we pilot out a program, we kind of know that there might be a few bumps in the road. Within the application here, though, we are going to ask if there's an estimated weekly gallons saved. So based on if there's 3 sprinkler zones in someone's yard and it was running, 3 times a week and they shortened it to 2, the irrigator should be able to provide some sort of an estimate. We could potentially, I'll have to look at this, look at bills over time. That might be pretty time intensive to look at that, but it's something that we can look at as well.
Or even just an audit, like select a few handfuls and see.
But so we would have, the licensed irrigator would fill out all of these items here. So they would let us know, oh, runoff was detected, you know, and if they fixed that, they would provide the information on the next page. So we would kind of be able to tell what changes were made. And so these would be, you know, some of the things that you would have if you had someone come out to your house, check out your irrigation system, they would go through a checklist like that. And so we've modeled this based on what we've seen other cities do. So if they identify that, you know, they took actions to fix some of the issues and they detail that out, there's more of a fill in the blank on this portion here. You know, they would let us know, okay, we reprogrammed the controller, or I straightened his head so it's not spitting water on the sidewalk and on the street. So those would be the things that we would look at. And if all of these come back and say no changes were made, then we might realize, okay, this might not be the best program and we should look somewhere else. So that's kind of I would say the beauty of the pilot, but we have quite a few other cities in the region that operate similar programs. They have good data on there. So I think this can be a good one for us.
Can you go back to the previous page?
Yes.
Do we have to wait? Since we know it's gonna happen and we could be the first ones to put our names in, I mean,
Now we'll have to wait till it officially goes, but I'm hoping that if we don't have too many changes based on our discussion tonight, this is something that can be, start to be promoted next month.
ethically though, it's like, I don't wanna jump to the front line because I know it's coming. but-
You can.
So can you summarize the incentive? So if someone, like my parents installed an irrigation system, sprinkler system a couple of years ago, and I think it's pretty well up to code and everything, they don't have any issues, but they were to have, you know, a plumber or an irrigator come out and do this check, and they didn't have any recommendations to repair or, you know, fix anything, then they wouldn't be qualified.
They could still get the rebate if they had the licensed irrigator come on site and go through the checklist, even if there were no changes to be made, they've done the audit. So they know that there's no waste. So ideally, hopefully a lot of people have that, but most people probably got their controllers set up when the system was installed and it's been collecting dust since.
And the rebate is $50 for 1 year?
$50, yes, and you can only do this, well, how we have it right now is, you can only do the audit every 5 years is what we have listed now. So some cities do it where you can get an audit every year. City of Dallas, that's when they presented, that was their example. So they have a limited number of people. There's some people that sign up every year to have them check their irrigation unit, which right now you could argue, I think we would rather have more people, different people, throughout the city do it than one person every year. So that's why we have every 5 right now, but that's something that we can discuss as the committee.
How much does an audit run for someone to come out and do this check?
Joseph, you called a couple of companies and I think they were like 120 or 150 to come out and do the,
Called one person, so.
yeah.
Are we gonna provide a list of irrigators that?
So there's a database on the Texas Center for Environmental Quality, their website. And so it would be something too, we really harp that they have to be a licensed irrigator. So if you had an irrigation company that installed your unit, you would just need to confirm when they do the audit that they have that license number.
And do we know so when you call someone out and say, hey, can you come and do an audit on the irrigation system? A lot of these, I don't have sprinklers at my house. Do a lot of these companies will say, oh yeah, for this flat fee, we'll check all these things, make minor adjustments if needed. They're not like, oh, well, we'll do the check for 120, but one sprinkler adjustment is $7 or.
So for the most part, it's like what we've seen is it's like a flat fee. And then they'll make minor adjustments. If it's a repair, if they have that swap out like a broken head, then there might be a charge for that. But like a reprogramming, at least flagging where the issues are, that's kind of what we see on the most basic ones.
So it sounds like the $50 will be roughly like a 30% discount.
That's kind of what we figured. It's like, it's enough to where we can spread out to have, more people participate with the budget that we have allotted. But hopefully $50 is enough to get someone to fill out the form and do that. So we can discuss the amount as well, what we think, and we could potentially change it. If we have it at 50, we don't receive any rebates or, applications for 2 months, then maybe we evaluate and say, hey, that's not enough
Yeah.
incentive for folks and it needs to be of 75.
When do you hope to, go live with this?
Depending on how many changes we have, we'd hopefully start promoting next month. So in March, which would be a good time because it'd be after all the freezes and everything. So if people have busted pipes or anything from winter freezes, could kind of be a good time for that.
So people like Price who wanted to get a jump start on this could go ahead and get somebody to come out today. Because it's within 120 days of the date of inspection.
You are technically correct, yeah. Once it launches.
Technically, you see how I said that?
How is the city going to market this?
Very similar to how we've marketed the toilet rebate. So
Okay.
through water bill insert, that was actually our best one for toilets when we put that in the water bill, ironically, where it makes sense, I guess. But, so we'll go, B-News, social media, we'll try and get those on screens at the rec center and stuff with a QR code that people can scan. So yeah, kind of through those channels and then as sustainability champions in Farmers Branch, word of mouth.
Mhm.
You should, make sure that you touch upon that, you know, even if you were to get a plumber out there or an irrigation specialist to come and do a quick check, like for the water line, to make sure there's no leaks, that's gonna be like $90 to $120. And this would be an opportunity, you know, at the end of the freeze season to encourage people to come and like just check the system and see if it's good for the year.
And I think a big part of it is just like with everything, I feel like we do here, it's just education. Some people may think, oh, I've never talked to him, but you know.
The water bill's always been $200.
Yeah.
I thought the sidewalk was supposed to be wet. So, I think that's a big part. It just makes people realize, oh yeah, it's not a bad idea.
And Al, when he did the presentation, talking about how much water is on the outside usage, so it is a pretty big piece of the pie on the outdoor watering, so.
Well, it seems like you could promote this at Hoya Park because there's so many people that think that. I was also thinking on the March 23rd,
Yeah.
Multicultural event.
Oh,
If
yeah.
this is implemented by then, just have some handouts. You know, we're gonna have a booth there and just have handouts and,
Have a QR code,
yeah.
scan it,
Yeah, both.
Yeah, got that on paper.
because the QR code would have everything. Save the paper.
Even having a list of preferred contractors that are, you know, local would expedite more.
I think that would
Do it.
seem like the city's endorsing those people.
Yeah, we have to be
It's like a
careful about
liability
that.
issue.
The city's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Can we step out on the first page?
Perception of.
Yeah, we have that listed that we don't.
So what's like
actually-
the Chamber of Commerce?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Business, stuff like that, could you use that?
So,
Yeah, we could direct folks to the chamber.
so once you get all these applications back in,
Mhm.
you tabulate the results and present to the city council,
Mhm.
estimated what you think could be saved.
Yeah, the same way with the toilet rebate, we know that, because we did that program for homes that were pre-1994. So the toilets going in at that time were 1.6 gallons per flush and we're doing 1.28 or something like that. Or, you know, we have an average. And so for every toilet that we swap in, we can calculate based on average number of flushes, a water savings. So that's what we would try. This one would be a little bit harder to do. It's kind of, the irrigator is putting an estimate based on the changes that they've made. So that would be something where we could potentially look at taking a sampling of folks that have done this, and when it's a year or two down the road, kind of compare their usage. So if they got the irrigation audit done in April, you know, we could maybe look at, okay, what was their usage like this summer compared to last? We could potentially look at something like that.
Yeah.
There's a grammatical mistake on the second bullet point made by the irrigator.
Oh, thank you. Why I bring this to y'all?
Reader extraordinaire.
Perfect. I'll have fresh eyes look at this too before anything goes live, and then also the translation.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Next agenda item is provide a staff update on the compost survey.
I think this is the last time I have to talk today. All right, so the Built and Natural Environment Subcommittee has been working to kind of understand or working on the survey to understand the current behavior and awareness of composting and to identify what barriers exist right now to divert food waste from the landfill. So the survey came up with the questions. We actually started with a lot and kind of whittled it down in hopes that we would have more people take the survey that was shorter and easier. And I think we were fairly successful with that because we had the survey go out January 24th. And when we printed or posted the agenda, we had 192 responses, which is pretty good for surveying because a lot of people have surveyed. So that part was good. The Polko software, those that have registered for it to do input on other city surveys, they get an email alert that there was this new survey available. So within the first day, we had 80 or so. Like it was pretty impressive. So Joseph asked me, so everyone that wasn't involved with the subcommittee could kind of see what it looked like in case you haven't taken the survey. But we promoted this through our usual channels. It was on the main banner of our homepage for farmersbranchtx.gov. And Jeff Brady did announcements during city council meetings. So we kind of did all of the above on that. And so when we had 192 responses, we're probably over 200 now. So I think will give us some pretty good input. We haven't compiled all the results here, but these are what the questions look like. So identifying what households currently do with food waste. Do you take it to Triple C? Do you compost at home? Do you just put it in the trash? Identifying their main reasons for not doing so if they don't compost. And then identifying what would be a motivating factor for composting. So what's important to people, how we can kind of message this, make sure that we're reaching people where they are. And then different topics that they'd be interested in learning about. So we'll take this and look. I think what we'll be able to do is in the fall, probably be able to offer some sort of composting like 101 class. We've already talked to a master composter in the region that would be willing to do that for us. So ideally we could do something like that at the community garden and have actually a hands-on demo. So, we could have this where people are actively learning and then hopefully where we can provide some resources. So we've talked about as one of the giveaways, like a countertop compost bucket, provide information because some people might not know you can take food scraps to Citizens Collection Center and it gets turned into compost. So if we see that, a lot of people are living in apartments, they might, we might have to gear that messaging for, okay, well, you can take it here or here's forms of composting you can actually do within a small space versus someone that, it just, has a large yard and the ability to do it, but just doesn't know how to do an outdoor compost bin. So very good work from the subcommittee on that to create that and get some good results. And
who was on that subcommittee?
Val, Lauren, and Shelby.
Well done.
So does Polko, like you can manipulate the data to pull up whatever information you want, or does it create like its own, you don't have to?
So I haven't played, this is the first one we've done, so I haven't
Okay.
really used the back end, but they used it for the citizen satisfaction survey. So I'm pretty sure you can get pretty much any sort of data
Okay.
you want out.
You don't have to actually like.
No,
compile it
it's
anyway.
a little bit smarter on that. So it'll probably let us know what percentage of people,
So pretty quickly after it closes,
yes.
so like by our March meeting, we'll be able to.
Yeah, we should have something
Evaluate
by
that.
March.
All right, let's move on to our next agenda item, which is to receive subcommittee updates. Built Natural Environment is first. There she is. There she is. Oh, there she goes.
There she goes.
I don't think we have anything that
No, we haven't.
survey's done.
Survey is great.
Our plan is to kind of regroup and come up with a plan for the year, either later this month or next month. So.
Okay. Sounds wonderful. Thank you. Communications.
So I attended the tree preservation subcommittee meeting that I've been appointed to the subcommittee. And it it appears that the focus will be primarily on commercial type, and like city property and commercial property. There doesn't seem to be much of an appetite for getting into the weeds of residential
Really?
tree
Yeah, that was your
preservation.
initial proposal was residential 1 through 6. And
Whose initial purpose?
I thought that the original scope, the ordinance was to include.
Well, the landscape ordinance is the bigger umbrella, and then inside that, there's like a specifically for tree preservation. And, I would encourage everyone to watch the study session regarding the landscape ordinance presentation. It was very
I mean, the one
informative.
that just occurred.
Mhm.
What meeting was that? Was it the 23rd of January, I believe, is when they brought that to council initially.
And what day was that meeting that you went to?
Well, I didn't get to go to that study session to see I went and saw the initial presentation, but I didn't get to go, or no, I didn't go to the council. I went to the planning and zoning where they presented it. Cause there was a subcommittee for the landscaping in general, and then they presented it to the larger planning and zoning. So I went to that meeting and it was very informative. And then Kira, who made the presentation to us, made the presentation to the city council, and they had a study session on it. That was the one I just watched, and it was very, I'll say, lukewarm responses. I'm being kind of generous. So I would encourage everybody, since we, basically said that we liked it, I would encourage everyone to watch that portion of the meeting. Because I feel like the planning and zoning might need a little support from our committee in general. But as far as the trees, specifically the tree preservation subcommittee meeting, which I attended, which is a whole nother thing. It appears that it's mostly going to be, there'll be some residential things in there, but like what we talked about, like preserving trees that are maybe near property lines or new developments, that's gonna be a really tough nut to crack. So it's really gonna be more about like city property, how the city is gonna manage, how commercial tree preservation is going to be implemented. So, it's something that's important and up for discussion, but I don't know how, robust it's gonna be initially.
And you said that was the study session from January.
I believe
think
so.
so.
I think that's when they put it. It'll list it on the agenda, and I believe P and Z took the feedback from council, and I don't know if they've had a chance to discuss it. Once they finalize it and take it back to council for a study session and see if they're kind of on the same page, that'll be something that we can take we can review as a committee and provide a recommendation for it. We kind of plan to do that this month, but they have more changes to make.
So again, just like with our sustainability plan, the goal is to get something adopted that can
Yes.
be built upon as,
Yes,
and so that's the goal. Let's get something going to help.
no, I agree. I agree. And the council brought up a lot of really great questions, and they had a lot of, they were engaged with the process or, with the information that they were presented. I think that, one of the things is like when you go from nothing to something, it can feel like too much or overwhelming or like too much is being, so like I said, I think it would be important for us to all watch a portion of that just to kind of get a temperature of where the council is at, so that may help us support planning and zoning a little bit better.
Would you be able to see that link to us?
Pardon?
I can do that.
Yeah, get the link. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alex, do we know when this city council will be discussing this again?
I will ask the planning department when they plan to take that back. And we can also look to, on the same place that all of our agendas are posted, planning and zonings are posted, and their meetings are recorded there as well. So if they have already discussed it, you can always check the video and find where they're talking about that. But I will send a link to the study session to everyone, and then I will follow up with dates. I can send that in an email. If they're planning to take it to council at the next meeting or something, and I'll be sure to follow up with the group.
And I did let the planning and zoning committee know that we had seen the presentation and that we were, pleased with a lot of the elements that were, involved in it. So the planning and zoning commission knows that, we like it, but I don't know, I think a little bit more robust support from us might be helpful.
Well, it sounds like that whenever the city council brings that up again, and gets on their agenda, it'd be good folks to be there. If possible.
Well, and also, reach out to your council person.
Right.
As a citizen, I mean, it's important for us to all show up as, a committee, but also it's important to show up as individual citizens.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thank you for doing that, being part of that subcommittee. Anything else from water conservation?
Smart meters, we can continue waiting for that. But Alex, in the city, have they installed any kind of like motion sensors on the like hand washing sinks and anything like that, or?
Some of them have like the sensors, and some of them don't. I think more have sensors than don't, but I could do kind of like a little audit as I go.
I haven't been to the rec center or any of the other municipal buildings in a long time. I know this one does have it. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I didn't think so. But that's just something to look into, going forward because I don't know how new or old a lot of the fixtures are, but when it is time to replace them, to upgrade them to that. Also, I just had a quick question. It came up, Corey sent me something from one of the moms groups. They're concerned there's something coming up with the city water line, with replacing the water lines. I hadn't heard anything about that, but it's gonna be a big project. They're looking into a bond for it.
Yes, I believe water infrastructure is one of the bonds that they are looking into. I think they were looking at water infrastructure, was one of the main ones. So I believe there's still two more bond town halls that they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And pretty much I think the council meetings, they've talked about the different bonds. I know they had a pretty lengthy discussion at the last council meeting about the different types of bonds.
We don't have I haven't heard a lot about, we don't have lead pipes here, do we?
I do.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, the water lines were put in government specifications. We did, the condition of the water lines are not near as bad as the fact that there are copper fittings that have lead in them. That was what the standard was when those things were done. That was the government standards. And now they're coming back and saying you need to replace those. Well, that is a massive project over the years, but we can fix it to the meter. But unless your house has been built since 1975, it has the same copper and lead inside your house.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that you've got to judge and figure out how do you do that. You can't change all the water lines at one time, even if we had the money to do that. We're not going to tear up every street in Farmers Branch to replace the water lines at one time. It has to be a staged process and it has to be done sensibly. The water lines are not really that old. Years ago, we used to get revenue sharing from the federal government. The Reagan administration stopped it. But prior to that, we used to get a lot of revenue, and we put every bit of that money into water line replacements back in the 70s and 80s. So, I mean, the story's not as bad as it's presented to be, but there are old water lines in the city, but a lot of it is this process. We've had enough experience that I wouldn't jump out and say anything that the government tells us to do this year that next year the laws and the rules have changed on.
Right.
And so you better do that in stages and figure out what really is thing to do, because we've done a lot of things in years past where we've been told that this is a new trend. We did it, and then they come back and say, no, that's wrong. So you gotta be careful on what you do with a lot of this stuff. So lead was put in copper types so that it was easier to solder years ago. And then they came along and said, well, lead's bad. It affects reproduction and a lot of things, which is probably true. And it makes sense, but you just gotta be careful with how you proceed on some of those things.
Right, I mean, and well, one of the big concerns, even just not even considering that, was at mine and Al's on the conservation side, was transportation loss. When there's water going from the source through the pipes, going out through openings, holes, broken pipes, small cracks, whatever, where that water is just going right under the pavement, right under the street, going and being wasted. So that was something that we're looking into. I know that, just, anyone who has to drive down Midway saw that whole thing that's been going on for the last 4 years, so that they're almost done with. But that was mainly, I think, waste lines on that one. They were the big ceramic waste lines there. But as far as supply lines go, I mean, obviously it has to be phased. You can't do a giant project to replace everything all at once. I think that's not gonna work.
Well, there's a lot of things about water that the average people don't understand. We buy water from the city of Dallas.
Right.
There is 2 charges. There's a charge for your ability to get it, the capacity you can get at one time, which is very substantial. And there's a charge for the actual volume that you use, how many gallons. What we do, you see these ground storage tanks are sitting around up there at Marsh Lane or some down here also. We pump water into those things at night when the demand is down, so we don't have to have a bigger pipe to pipe it in there. And then we pipe it into the standpipes during the day. Now, those standpipes aren't full. They pump in there the amount that they figure that's going to use that way to create enough pressure. And so we store that water in these tanks. And we have to put chemicals and different things like that in it to contaminate, keep that process so that you don't have mold and all those things going on. But just like, going back in the late 70s, up through the early 80s, we had an ongoing lawsuit with the city of Dallas over water. We spent way more money on that lawsuit than we ever spent on irrigation. We were in a lawsuit with them dealing with the fact that when they built a new reservoir, they wanted to pass the reservoir cost on to all users. We said, we're not responsible for the new reservoir. We're not using any more water. New cities coming online, we're responsible for that. So we got a lawsuit over it. It didn't do anything to the city of Dallas but irritate them, but it affected their bond rating. Because when they went out to borrow money, there was this lawsuit hanging over their head that gave them a reduced bond rating. So finally they came to us and said, let's settle this lawsuit. The only thing we got out of the lawsuit is we got a restriction that we will never be limited in the amount of water that we get from the city of Dallas. That's why you've never been restricted here in the summertime on how much water you use. Most other cities have that restriction. But that's probably the only benefit I can tell you that we got out of that lawsuit. Was the fact that they said, we will not restrict you on how much water you take.
Anyway, all right, well, that was my question about that, but as far as water loss and water conservation, obviously, there will need to be some supply line replacement from our end that we're looking at to prevent that kind of transportation loss.
And I think a lot of it too are the large meter replacements. So we've talked a lot about the residential ones. As they replace the large meters, those were, I think, where there's a big opportunity for conservation.
Yeah.
So as they continue to do these improvements, whether it's bond funded or just within our kind of normal course of business,
Yeah.
we'll see improvements on the water loss from that.
You know, if the GIS maps are up to date for the water and sewer lines for the Farmers Branch area. I know they've been updating them in the city of Dallas for a long time, so you can see at least, you know, what diameter and what material, so that you can figure out like how many linear feet there is and what percentage of that is, you know, copper versus.
State Public Works has all of that data. I'm pretty sure they do.
Anything else?
Yeah, pretty much it,
It's not really what, I was actually more for Al, like the multicultural thing, what's the status?
Okay, yeah, so we are definitely having the multicultural. The only thing I have to apologize to the group is I've been assigned a duty to go do something for the multicultural because I'm on the committee. So if I can pick up the stuff that you want, put it over there, get you a table and everything, but I cannot be manning it.
So what are the hours of the event?
So from 10 o'clock to 5:30. So we need someone to man it and pass out literature.
I'll send
What day?
a sign up list.
Have you talked to Jeff Fairchild about getting a booth over there, or
I have not,
you want me to talk?
yeah, if you, since you're on the committee.
Okay, I'll
you can
talk to
find-
him.
March 23rd.
March 23rd. And please join us. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a lot of different countries represented and kids are gonna have a lot of fun.
One thing. My wife's gonna be out of town.
Yes, you can.
Soccer schedule.
These are baby sling thing,
We use it every day.
very multicultural.
I'll send a sign up list for
All right,
availability.
next agenda items, receive an update from community members on activities attendance, so that would include a multicultural event.
I have, wait, what did you say? Joseph, is it?
Other activities attended, which includes you for Brookhaven.
I don't have anything.
No, one thing.
No, I have something else I want to say about Brookhaven. Can I do that now or should I wait?
Why don't you do that now?
I spoke via email to the Texas Master Natural Gardener that coordinates the cleaning and upkeep of our windmill garden on campus. Not Sandra. Yeah, Sandra's her name also. They're seeking volunteers to help with the pollinator garden that we have on campus, the second Wednesday each month at 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and the fourth Sunday every month from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. to volunteer at Brookhaven campus windmill garden.
As the second Wednesday and the fourth Sunday.
The fourth Sunday and the second Wednesday, both at 9 in the morning. That's very early.
Sunday.
Do you have anything on campus?
I was gonna wait back here.
Oh, that's all I have.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing here. You're up, Paul.
Okay, well, there we go. So in addition to that, we also have an intern from the Sustainability and Energy Management Department, which is my department. So we have an intern who is working at the windmill garden, and she's a student. And we are diverting cardboard from the baler so that she can use it to tamp down the weeds that are growing and redo the walkways. So it's a little bit more hemp. So, that's nice, because we got the baler program going and now we can divert it easily instead of having to pull it out of a dumpster or make a bunch of calls.
Now, what program did you just refer to?
Instead of all the cardboard going to recycling dumpsters, I had balers purchased at all of the main 7 campuses. So we bale the cardboard and then I have an external partner that buys it. So that way we can both save the money from it not going in the dumpster and hauling the dumpster as frequently. And we also get a little bit of money back. And The haul fee is free as long as we collect 9 bales, which are about 1,000 pounds. So we just hold 9, call it in, maybe 3 times a year. Maybe 2 or 3, depending on the campus. So that's one nice thing.
Is it open to public or?
Yeah, that was my question.
It is not. We intentionally hid it behind everything so people
Okay.
don't know it's there.
Right, but, yeah, but like we were saying this, we have so much
Did you go to the garden?
clean cardboard, you know, not pizza boxes, but just
Yeah.
clean cardboard that goes right into the recycled bin and then it gets mixed with all the other stuff with that and someone like me, a darn hippie, would like to take it directly to the baler as a benefit to the school and knowing that it is going right back to recycling into more boxes, et cetera. So,
I feel you, and I pushed this in 2022, and I was told, we don't want to flood the campus with people trying to give us their trash. And I said, well, can we do like an event like once or twice a year? And they said, we'll think about it. So that's how I'm trying to get the foot in the door, is to say, well, let's do like an annual event. And then we have 7 of those, so we'll do like, you know, if we can do 7 annual events with no disasters for a year, maybe I can get 2 per campus per year and try and push it that way, but my management is super
not too keen on the unwashed public, eh?
Well, we've had issues where, like, we have to recycle, so another thing I did was I got scrap metal roll-offs. So we can recycle the scrap metal instead of throwing it all in the construction roll-off. And we had people come and put their fence posts in it. And, you know, then the scrap metal hauler threatens to not bring us another one. So we have to try and hide everything away from the public because we can't trust the public to, you know, put things in the scrap metal bin when it says scrap metal on the side. So how do you think it would be if we had the baler available and then like they crushed their head in it and whose fault was that?
Natural selection.
Hard to make money, that'd be terrible.
Well, so there's a key to it and the custodial crew has the key. And I have a key.
From the insurance.
So
company.
so what I hear you saying is we can bring you our cardboard and we.
I believe that's-
Get Wednesday of every month.
And then on the other thing, so, I have been moving towards HVAC related things. So that is something we're looking at now is building automation controls for HVAC. Cybersecurity stymied us for over a year because they didn't want, you know, those kind of controls to be available for cybersecurity reasons.
Not to be
So-
in before.
Well, that's what we ended up doing, was having a separate VLAN that's not connected to anything and you have to VPN to control the stuff. And
Yeah,
so now we have that and we're starting to tune it. So that's why I'm getting involved.
fantastic.
Yeah,
So
so,
that's, at my buildings, I've done that for my last like 3 buildings. So with the BMS systems, some's energy management, some's building management, but everything's right there on somebody's phone that you have to VPN into, or it's right there. It's only in the office where the engineer can control it, but it's a huge money saver.
yes, and, so that's, like, I'm getting involved because I wanna do some analytics with Tableau to see like, okay, well, we have like a high power usage at 4 a.m, like what's going on? And sometimes it's, well, you know, it's less efficient if we let it get too hot and then we have to ramp everything all the way up. So there's some balance to be done, and so I'll be taking a peek at that while we're done.
Right, well, if you need help on that kind of stuff, that's what I do. I've done in my buildings and deal with other contractors who do it and like ideal settings and the best way to manage it. Because I guess what happens is what the building does, it's like, okay, it's 5 a.m, everyone's gonna come, so it's been 100 degrees overnight, so, and we just let it get hot, so now we just gotta blast this cold air and spike the energy to cool the building down by the time everyone gets there at 7. So, yeah.
And also, it's been a kind of a pain because there's probably, you know, at least 6 different companies, equipment, because, you know, we have 7 different campuses, everything's piecemeal, so trying to get it all to play nicely is one thing. And then we've already got it tethered into the scheduler for events. So the idea is, well, how much can we ease off of the AC And then when people schedule the event, it goes, and then you have to balance that with, oh, we have so many people, doing hot, cold calls all the time because they didn't plan properly.
Right.
I'm like, well, how much do we care? Well, there are a bunch of external facing people in here crying. So it's a big ship. It's hard to turn, but we're getting there. We're turning
Yeah, that's the
very
great.
slowly.
Before we go any further in our meeting tonight, this is Ted's first official meeting as a member of our subcommittee.
But,
It wasn't last month?
I would
It was-
not take my oath.
Yeah, it was.
I had to take the oath in person.
And he was
I was not
Yeah,
stateside.
So you made me.
that's right, what?
Yeah.
We know, we checked, he counted present because he was technically a member of the.
Oh, okay, so you, yeah, okay, good.
But I
Yeah,
couldn't
they-
vote or anything.
But I'm also alternate too, so we're safe.
All right.
As long as you show up, we're good.
Yay.
Okay, our last item is to discuss agenda items for future sustainability committee meetings.
I've got one just just with the building I'm working at. And just how hard they went again on their LEED Gold status and their wellness status. Just different things to do. Like one of the things that they said really helped out was there are no garbage cans at the desks. There's centralized garbage cans because if people walk to the place, instead of throwing everything in there, it's just letting the vendor come, the cleaning vendor come and pick it up and just throw it away. They walk to it, they can say, oh, this is the compost one, this is the recycle one, this is the landfill one. So that they did studies on it, that it really increases the compliance when people walk up to it and they see the choices in front of them. That's one thing.
Is that something you'd want to do like a presentation on for the group? Just
Yeah,
kind of highlighting some of those items?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they'll walk in there, I'll steal all their ideas. I don't care. If it's good for us,
Inspired, that's right.
Inspired.
I can't steal.
Mimic.
Like,
I just want a video of you actually going up.
I'll do all that, man. I'll show you. Like, I'll be like, I'll walk up and like, oh, yeah, outside movements,
Lord, that smile.
big smile, large pointings, lots of pointings and smilings. The basis of every good presentation.
Not a subject for future meetings, but getting out of the Citizens Collection Center has become an exercise in taking your life in your hands.
Yeah, I don't know what we can do on
We
that.
can reduce the speed limit at that
Yeah, maybe
section.
that.
That, and there actually needs to be a proper amount of space to get at least halfway, because you very rarely can go across. If you're trying to turn left,
Yeah.
everybody's just, the amount of traffic has increased exponentially. I don't know why, maybe, yeah.
All the
And all the construction crews and all the new residents and stuff, but it has just become really a problem. And if you can at least get to the middle, to hang, but you can't even completely get, your butt's hanging out in this one and you're kind of, it's not good. So it's an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, I'll bring that up with Shane and Ryan and see if they have any thoughts on that, or
Yeah.
I don't know what all they can do, but I'll bring it up.
Well, there's a little bit of medium that I hate to take out more grass, but if they widened it, at least you could fully get out into it and be turned completely sideways
Right.
as you're waiting to get to the other.
Merge to the other side.
But right now you can't. Yeah, right. It's just, not good.
Precarious. It's precarious, that's true.
You might have to buy a bigger
I don't know.
collection center.
Yeah, move it.
Oh, I forgot to ask, how's the progress on the solar farm going?
So the permits were all submitted in December, so we're in a bit of a holding pattern right now. So hopefully I'll have some sort of update.
That state?
State and local, so we have our own too. So they've submitted that, but the state ones are the longest ones, so we'll have meetings with our contractor on that. So hopefully I'll have a better update. The sizing that we were presented is smaller than we had originally had, so we're trying to work through some issues with that from what was originally presented, so work in progress.
Yeah, that's our last agenda item, so I'm not gonna open it for citizen comments. Mayor Glancy would like to talk to us.
You ready for me?
I am.
Okay.
You wanna sit down over here?
Let me stand over here.
All right.
Terry Lynn and I, and a little bit, we've talked to Ben a little bit about, and some of the council people about a project we think is very simple in its ideology, but very massive in its effects on our environment. And most of you know me as involvement with the city, but I made my living as a marketing manager and packaging and a strategic planner. And I studied a lot of things about trends and where things were going and how it would impact our industry. And let me ask you before I start a few questions. How many of you have been to our MRF where we recycle? Okay, one lady. How many of you have ever been to a paper mill? Yeah, okay, that's good. We went through and, you know, one of the big things that we're concerned about is the life of our landfill. And it's been a great thing for the city of Farmers Branch. It was bought as an accident. You may not know this, but we bought that as a golf course. There was a defunct golf course that was up there, went out of business, went bankrupt. We bought it, or not, it was before I went on the council the first time, but the city had done a lot of things with Carrollton, and Carrollton had Indian Creek, and they kept telling us how much money they were making off the Indian Creek golf course, so we thought we would try to duplicate it. So we bought the old defunct golf course. It turned out that it cost so much money to bring it up to standards and everything, and it was way away from us. So the idea was abandoned, and we said, okay, we'll turn it into a landfill. Now, you know, it's like a blind squirrel finding a nut. It turned out to be a great thing, and it is a great thing for our city. And we have, I think, a very unique situation right here in this city that may not be duplicated anywhere else in the country. I'm of the theory that doing what's going on today in the packaging market is going to be dramatically changed over the next few years. Have any of you ever heard of Senate Bill 54 in California? No. Senate Bill California tells, let me give you the details of this. You know, California has 1/10 of the population of the United States. There's 37 million people in California. And it affects what happens with all the rest of us. Senate Bill 54 says by,
Has this been passed? Have they passed this?
By 2028, 30% of all plastic sold in California has to be made out of recycled plastic. That's your water container, everything. By 28, it's 40% of it has to be, and by 1930 or 2032, 65% of the products have to be made out of recycled plastic. Well, today, recycled plastic, the maximum is ever recycled is 9%. There's 7 different grades of plastic, and you can't mix them. You have to separate them. And it's not practical. It will probably never be able to be done, but it will have an impact. You know, I spent 40 years in the paper industry developing products that always plastic came along and replaced me because it was cheaper and it performed better, had more structural conditions than paper. Today, the reverse trend is happening. We're going back to paper. And if you deal with Amazon, you're starting to see the envelopes that come to your house are paper. The boxes that come have paper tape on them. There's a string in there, but that will dissolve in the paper machine. And so we're going to have to try to make paper more recyclable. Well, today, the maximum that paper has ever been recycled is 68%, and that is pure corrugated with nothing else in it. The average recycle on paper is about 20 to 40%. Because while paper is all cellulose fiber, that wrapper that your sandwich is wrapped in today has a poly coating on it, or a Scotch band treated product. And we cannot recycle that in a paper mill. And so there's so much of the products that we have that we pick up and goes in that recycle container. We take it down to the MRF. And I would encourage you to go take a trip down there and look at that. The dumping site at the MRF doesn't look any different than the dumping site at Camelot. There is tricycles and footballs and coolers and everything else. People put every damn thing you could think of in that recycle bin and take it down there. We run it through a MRF and then take it to the landfill. The figures I last heard was if we pick it up at the curb, it's $22 a ton. We take it to the MRF, run it through the MRF, then take it to the landfill, it's $44 a ton. And so we're paying a lot of money to send a lot of stuff through the landfill or through the MRF that can't be used. Now, my theory is paper is all cellulose fiber, just like wood. And the biggest thing we have that we recycle or we pick up and trash is tree trimmings. When you trim your trees, it's out at the curb. We come along and pick it up, take it down to good earth and have it ground up and used in a mulch. Now, I can't prove this feeling, but I've been told that we're paying something like $240 a truck to take it down there and dump it and have them shredded. We in the city take all of our tree trimmings to them. We have a contract with Republic that they can put anybody's tree trimmings or anything else they have in our landfill, which is filling it up. Our contention is that we take paper, we run it through the MRF, we take out what is reusable, which is clean stuff. Corrugated is great if it's long, it doesn't have plastic tape on it or some other contaminant, doesn't have grease in it or foodstuffs or things like that. But so much of the paper that goes through there is not something we can recycle. If it has grease on it, food contaminants, those kind of things we can't use. And also colors. If it gets into a lot of different colors, the whole criteria to recycling is you've got to have a good quantity of particular item of consistency, and you've got to have a good market that you can put it into when you make it. But recycle works wonderful, but a lot of this stuff doesn't work that way. So our contention is, let's take the paper that we can't recycle and blend it with the tree trimmings that we have. Let's make mulch. And we have to go through all the process, and I'm telling you a simple version, and there's a lot more details to this that has to be worked out. But you take that, we make mulch, and then we encourage people to put it back on their lawns as mulch. And what happens, we have an unique situation in this area. I have sit through council meeting after council meeting and heard hydrologists come and talk to us about the creeks and how we have so much water running down, erosion we have in our creeks and all that. The first thing out of their mouth is The biggest problem you have is your soil. Yes, you have water runoff from parking lots and all that, but the soil in this area,
It's clay.
when you have a heavy rain, 90% of the water runs off. Because the soil does not absorb moisture. It doesn't have a lot of sand and a lot of pervious in it. So the contention is, if we can encourage people, and we have a vehicle to do that, we're charging you a water runoff fee now. If you will put this mulch on your yard, we'll eradicate the water runoff fee for a period of time. So there's an incentive to do it. We put that on the yard. That way, when it rains, we get more absorption. And then conversely, in the summertime, your water irrigation will work better through that mulch soil than it is putting it on hard ground, which 90% of it runs off in the hot heat of the day. So there's a lot of details to this, but I think it's all practical and can be done. We just need to get people who will mold a mix, and we got to figure out what's the percent of paper we can put with wood trimmings. You know, we don't want to turn your yard white, and so there's a certain amount of poly that will be in this product, but I think if it's ground up properly, it will be all right on the soil. And so I think this is a project that Farmers Branch could be one of the first people in the nation to ever do anything like this. And I think the whole project could be taken all over the country if we can make it work. And so what we talked about, initially we talked about getting on a program and giving you a full-blown program. But I have a very special relationship with the paper mill. I basically did a marketing program and kept them in business and kept them growing. And so they'll literally do almost anything I ask them to do. And I would probably suggest that we take a few of you to the paper mill and actually let you see how this product. I'll give you some literature. This company is,
You take questions.
is whole process is sustainability. That's their whole focus. Yes,
We got a question over here.
yes.
So International Paper is really close to us, and they'll take pizza boxes that are dirty.
Well,
Um,
these people are different. These people are really focused on recycling.
mhm.
Everything they do is recycle. They burn pallets for power. And I think what they do is much different than what an IP or Weyerhaeuser or any of these other people do. And so I think, and they have, one of the family members is so incensed into this whole process that that's one of the things we stopped. Joe and I talked about doing this, but the guy was in Europe. He spent a year in Europe studying the environmental issues there and helping them over there. So he's an expert in environmental recycling. And I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, these people will be more than willing to let you go through their plant. A small amount. I don't want to take 20 people up there, but we can take a small group of 7, 8 people up there, go through the mill, see how paper is actually made, how the process is made, what we have to do to be able to process secondary fiber, reusable fiber, and all of that, and how it is. They have a farm up there where they do mulch, things like that they take out of there. So we don't have to invent the wheel to do this. And then from that, I think it's a long-term project. It's not something that's going to be done over the next 2 or 3 months or 6 months or anything. But I think if we start on it, because we got to renegotiate contracts with people we do business with now, and we've got to get a group of them together that is interested to follow through this process. Because we're dealing with Good Earth, we're dealing with Republic, and a lot of other companies that, you know, I found in businesses, if people are halfway successful at something, it's harder than hell to get them to change and look outside the box at new things. But I think this is something that could have big impacts on the whole country and how this process works. So I wanted to throw it out to you. If you're interested in it, fine. I'm 83 years old. At this point in my life, I could go on and watch TV or something. I don't have to do this. But if you're interested in it, we would like to get involved in the process and see how it does. I think it would be something that would really put great rewards for Farmers Branch if we got in this program and made it work and showed other municipalities how you do it. If we get this thing set up, we'd have to probably have a shredding operation at the landfill. We've talked about doing it at transfer station, but it's not big enough. There's noise, there's probably smells, all kinds of things there. I think it needs to be done at Camelot because you're gonna have to store this stuff and digest it and all that. And it'd take a long time. But I think if we set it up, we could make the other cities abide by it. And instead of letting them dump their stuff in our landfill, you've got to take it through our shredder.
Can I ask you a question? So when I was a kid, I've grown up in Farmers Branch. We had paper bags for lawn trimmings. Why did we stop doing that?
Let me tell you the history of the paper bag.
Because I feel like we should just take the whole paper bag and throw the whole thing in the mulch with all the bits and everything, and then we have our compost. Because I think the thing that people are scared of is putting plastic in the mulch. So if we could just throw the whole thing in there, wouldn't that like solve the whole problem and everybody would be on board like this?
I still do it. I buy bags from Westlake and put it on a rack that I have. I'm the only person in the neighborhood. Paper bags were a wonderful thing. Where that came from is back in the early 70s, the paper industry decided that we were going to have a great influx of demand for corrugated cartons. International Paper, Weyerhaeuser went out and built 35-foot wide web paper machines to run kraft. Well, not long after that, it started having erosion of business going to China. And you can't haul corrugated over about 100 miles economically because it doesn't weigh anything. So the market went away in America. A lot of the machines were torn down and taken to China. But the byproduct of that, when they couldn't sell corrugated boxes, they came up with the idea of selling paper trash bags, wall-to-wall, two-way paper trash bags. And we bought off on them and used them here. And it cost us about $80,000 a disbursement of the bags for the citizens of Farmers Branch. And I think it was a great thing. Now, the people who were resistant to that said, well, if you put it in a landfill, a paper bag takes more space than a plastic bag. Okay. And initially, landfills were designed for compacting, where we put a liner in that mill, we put a layer of garbage in there, and we put 6 inches of dirt and compacted. The original thought was that they didn't want it ever to digest. Well, they figured out that didn't work. Now they want it to digest. Well, plastic won't digest. Plastic has two characteristics. It lasts forever and it melts. And so, in the packaging business, we were forced by Florida under state legislation to make a biodegradable plastic bag. We added 5% cornstarch to the resin. And instead of degrading in 100 years, it degraded in 95. But it satisfied the politicians who said it's not good and wanted to recycle product. So I want stuff that works, not stuff that sounds
So
good.
do you think Terry Lynn would be open to reintroducing the paper bags?
What's that?
Would you think Terry Lynn would be open to the paper bags again? So we can
Possibly.
mulch them? 'Cause
I mean,
think that
it was
the
a
hard part
great
is the
product
plastic,
because
right?
when it left and picked up, the street was clean. You didn't have a container sitting out there that requires somebody, when you get home at night, to take it in or whatever. We all fought that. I don't like that type of a garbage disposing process. But what people do now, they don't use that. They use the trash liner that they take out of the trash can, sits on the curb. But I think the paper bag was a lot better solution to the problem. And you're right. If you had people put paper in that thing and we take it to the MRF, You run it through there as is.
It's just leaves and sticks and lawn
Shredded
trimmings
and all that. So, but that's another issue to where that, and where we ever get back to paper or not, I don't know, but,
We're going a little bit beyond just citizen comments now.
I'm sorry.
shift.
Yeah. I think you can either add it as an agenda item, or if y'all want to stay after the meeting, y'all can keep talking.
I think,
Yeah.
Mayor, we would like, I personally would like to hear more, because I'm very interested in it. And, you can have you come back, maybe.
Well,
That's fine.
I'll talk to this young man who's a environmentalist at the mill. I'd like to have him come in and talk to you because he's really in depth. He's in all phases of sustainability. And I'll tell you, my son is the vice president of the paper mill of this operation. And it has nothing to do, he doesn't even care what I'm doing. And it's not gonna affect him one iota. They are so busy today producing products. They sell Apple, they sell Amazon, everybody is moving. You know, this is what you're gonna start seeing as a new product, the transparent paper bag. And all these products that are done today are replacements for plastic. They're doing a lot of shredding, they're doing a lot of bulk fill products and stuff like that to go into this business. And that's last thing they need is more business. But they're very knowledgeable. They deal with all of these things every day with all over the United States. My son has United States and Europe and the middle of Far East and all that. So he deals with all these damned issues. But I just think it's something that we could do right here in Farmers Branch that makes a big impact on the environment. And, you know, we've done a lot of neat things in this city that hadn't got a lot of recognition. I was telling Michael, you know, years ago, the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas caught fire and burned down, and a lot of people died. And Las Vegas had very lax laws on hotel standards for safety, fire safety. Well, of course, when that happened, everybody panicked. And so they called, and we were involved, very heavily involved in the national cities. And they said, we need a code on safety for fire hotels. They said, call Farmers Branch. It has the best safety code of any city for fire protection for hotels. And so there's a number of things that we've done in the past that really made us stand out as a city. And these are things that we can do that somewhere down the line, when they come up with the 10 best cities in the world to live in, I want us to be one of them. And I think these kind of things make that happen. And I think this is the stuff that I just think would make sense for us to look at. And it's an involved process. We need to involve A&M or somebody that's really into mulching. We need to make test plots where we put maybe a 12 square foot area where we put a couple inches of this mulch and measure the water runoff compared to a plot that doesn't have it. We need to measure the absorption rate. A lot of moving parts here to prove what we're doing makes sense.
You can have my lawn.
Huh?
You can have my lawn.
Do you have a current contact
Just
card?
take it.
What's that?
Do you have a current contact card or a QR or something I can?
Hey, guys,
Oh, I
we
can
need to-
give you- yeah, we need to-
We need to bring it up.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to hear more about this, because this is in line with stuff we were already talking about, so.
Let's see. I haven't printed any. That's my cell phone number on there.
We'll follow up and have this as a potential future. Yeah.
But,
Lancy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
certainly, and
Thank you very
you
much.
know, if you're really, if it's something you guys are in, if you're not, I accept it, fine. But I think,
There's
it's
definitely
something
an
that the
interest. We
city
just
could
need
really
to
get yourself
work
in.
on having you come back, your son come back and talk to us.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Well,
Be a
you
good
know,
one.
I helped a lot of people with careers. And if you could put this kind of a program together, I don't know what your occupations is or your job, you could do this thing as a consultant and go all over the United States and sell it and make an awful lot of money.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? I move. Second, and, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, it's 8:10 and our meeting is over.